Hello, folks. Welcome back to the weekly wrap-up with your host, James LEVASSEUR.
I'm Nguyen.
And the following cards have a theme to them as they're all players from America, and they're all hockey cards once again, with 3 players and 2 goalies. This is going to be a very exciting episode today. This is the final episode of Season 1. And the first card we have up is none other than Peter Mueller. Drafted the number 8 pick in the first round of the 2006 draft. He's only played for 6 seasons in the NHL, and it has not had that big of an impact. In those 6 seasons, he scored 63 goals and has made 97 assists for a total of 160 points. He was drafted by the Phoenix Coyotes and played for them for 3 years until eventually moving on to Colorado Avalanche for 2 seasons and then eventually finishing his career with the Florida Panthers during the 2012 to 2013 season. I'm going to hand it off to Danny with how the card looks.
So when we talk about the card in general, we see it's from Upper Deck. It's one of the best card sets you want to go for when you're investing in hockey. So when we look at it, we see a nice orange and white that matches the jersey of the Phoenix Coyotes. And the jersey patch, it adds value to it. We know that Peter Mueller is a great player in general in the hockey. What do you think about it, James?
I think it's a very nice card. If I were to give it a rating, I'd give it a 7 out of 10, only because he hasn't really had that big of an impact, and he's only played for 6 seasons in the NHL. So, yeah, that's my rating, Danny. What about you?
So my rating is going to be 7.5 out of 10. It looks really good. It has a nice look to it. I like it overall. The colors match with the jersey. It's all that. What's the next card?
All right, so the next card coming up is none other than Phil Kessel, otherwise known as Phil the Thrill. Phil the Thrill was drafted the number 5 pick in the first round of the 2006 NHL draft. An exciting career for Phil, as with 1,286 games played, with 413 goals and 579 assists, for a total of 992 points. He's won 3 Stanley Cups, with his latest being with the Vegas Golden Knights, as well as winning a Bill Masterton Memorial Trophy. And I'm going to hand it off to you, Danny, for how the card looks.
So when we look at the card, this is probably our most coolest card we had today. When we look at it, it has a nice royal architecture in the background, and it looks perfect with the card. It's from Upper Deck. Like I stated, it's one of the best card sets you want to invest in for hockey and all of that. It has a nice holographic sticker for the auto. It just adds tons of value to it. What's your rating about it?
I would give this card an 8 out of 10. He's a really great player. He's had a great career, but I don't think it's really the most appealing when I look at it. I'm going to have to disagree with you there, Danny, but yeah, what's your rating?
So my rating's going to be 8.5. Although James' disagreement with my overall opinion on it, it's probably the most coolest card we've had today on this episode, and that's my rating. What's our next card?
All right, so moving right on through, the next card we have up next is a goalie, and one of my favorite goalies in the NHL, we have Tim Thomas up. He's a personal favorite goalie of mine. In his 10 seasons in the NHL, he's played 426 games with 214 wins with 31 shutouts. He has a 2.52 goals against average and a 920 save percentage. He's won 1 Stanley Cup with the Boston Bruins. With that victory, he has a Conn Smythe trophy, and as well as 2 Vezina trophies and 1 William M. Jennings trophy. To me, this is the most appealing card, Danny. What do you think about it?
So when we look at the card, it's also from Upper Deck. It's perfect. This time for the card, it's not on sticker auto, it's an on-card auto. This card is actually brought to Tim Thomas and was autographed by him. It's pretty cool. The classic yellow, white, and black goes well. You get that original style from Boston as a Bruin. What do you think about it?
Obviously, I am a little biased because he played for the Boston Bruins, but when looking at the card, just the yellow pops out with the uniform and how the pads look with the coloring, and also with him signing it himself. I'm going to have to give this card a 10 out of 10, Danny.
So when we look at the card, we see it's from Upper Deck, one of the best sets you want to go for when you look at hockey. And when we look at it, you get the classic vibe of yellow, black, and white, representing a Boston Bruins and all that. What do you think about it?
If I were to give this card a rating, I would have to give it a 10 out of 10. Obviously, personal favorite goalie of mine, Tim Thomas. The colors of the card, really pop out to me when you first look at the card. It's just, the Sharpie. It's just an amazing-looking card, Danny. What do you give for your rating?
For my rating, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. When we look at hockey, and for myself, I don't think that a goalie is like the most looked-after role in hockey. You usually look at the player who's obviously getting the puck and scoring goals more instead of actually trying to block them. What's our next card up, James?
Okay, so moving on from Tim Thomas, we're going to stick with goalies, and our next goalie being the very accomplished Ryan Miller. He has played 796 games in the NHL with 391 wins. He's had 44 shutouts with a 2.64 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. He's won the NHL Foundation Player Award and a Vezina Trophy. Danny, I'm going to give it to you on how the card looks.
So when we look at the card, it's from a unknown company called In the Game Inc. We don't hear about that. It's not a good set in general. But when we look at the background, we have a nice red that fades into a woodish brown color. And when we look at the jersey patches, we get one of the jersey and then one of actually his stick that he played with in the NHL. And when he played for the Buffalo Sabres and in the Olympics later on in his career. What do you think about it, James?
Okay, so I really like how the card looks. Again, with the stick piece and the jersey piece really adds to the card with the value. I'm going to give this card a 9 out of 10.
I have to agree. I'm also going to give this a 9 out of 10. For overall, with Ryan Miller and Tim Thomas's stats, what do you think about that in general?
I think Tim Thomas is a better goalie, but Ryan Miller has played more games, which gives him an advantage because he has more wins and more shutouts than Tim Thomas. But with only 426 games, Tim Thomas has a close, with the shutouts. He has 31 shutouts, and Ryan Miller has 44. So I feel like they're pretty close, with Ryan Miller having over 300 more games played than Tim Thomas. So I think, in my opinion, I would say Tim Thomas is better, but what do you think, Danny?
I would have to say Tim Thomas is a better player in general. He's just got a little more experience, I think, in general, than Ryan Miller. What's our next card up, James?
All right, so moving off from goalies, we're actually going to go to defensemen, as our next card is Tyler Myers. He has played 995 games with 93 goals, 278 assists for 371 points. As you see, he only has 93 goals. That's because defensemen are typically goal scorers. That's more the forward's job. You see the assists are very high because that's what defensemen are really there for. They're really there for protecting the goalies, and they're more for setting up the offensive play. And he's won a Calder Memorial Trophy. What do you think about the card, Danny?
So when we look at the card, it's from Limited. It's an underrated, expensive set in general from Panini. And I love how the black fades into a white in the bottom of the card. As we know that Tyler Myers is from the Buffalo Sabres, and the jersey patch just goes well with it. You get a pop with yellow and blue just to counteract with the black and white fade. What do you think about it, James?
I really like how the card looks. I really like the Buffalo Sabres jersey that he's in. I like the uniform. It's just, the jersey patches, like you said, it really goes well with the card. I'd have to give this card a 9 out of 10 for my rating. Obviously, I'm biased because as a defenseman myself, I really like this player. So what do you think, Danny?
For my rating, I'm also going to give it a 9 out of 10. It has a really cool contrast with the the yellow and blue that pops out hugely, and then we have a nice black and white to counteract with that fade in the background as we have Tyler Myers defending.
All right, and that'll be it for the Season 1 finale of the weekly wrap-up. Join us next week for Season 2, Episode 1 with new branding and some even cooler cards. And watch out for episodes every Friday at 5 p.m. This has been the Season 1 finale of the weekly wrap-up with your host, James LEVASSEUR.
Danny Nguyen.
Thank you.